Welcome to the Carl Jackson Show podcast, your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. Did you guys know this? It turns out that conservative parenting is the antidote to child mental health issues. There was a study that found that kids that are raised by conservative parents have stronger relationships with their parents and a lower risk of developing mental health issues. And mental health problems in children is a great predictor of mental health problems going into adulthood. Parenting styles make a huge difference. Conservative parents tend to use an authoritative style. I'll explain that, as opposed to an authoritarian style and a permissive style that a lot of liberal parents will use. Also, the COVID lockdowns played a huge role in this. And we still have government health agencies like the CDC that refuse to look at this data showing that conservative parenting leads to better mental health issues for children and into adulthood. Who's surprised? Unbelievable. They're focusing on equity instead. So we'll dive into this. This is, again, your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. Welcome to the Carl Jackson Show after your I hope you had a wonderful Christmas. All right, guys, real quick, let me talk to you about MyPillow. Right now, MyPillow is offering an exceptional deal to all of my listeners and to my viewers. As you know, my friend Mike Lindell has a passion to help everyone get the best sleep of their life. And he didn't stop by simply creating the best pillow. Mike has created the Giza Dream Bed Sheets as well. They look and feel great, which means an even better night's sleep for me, which is crucial. Obviously for my schedule, and I'm sure for yours as well. So Mike has found the world's best cotton called Giza. It's ultra soft and it's breathable, but it's extremely durable. Mike's Giza sheets come with a 60-day money-back guarantee. They come with a 10-year warranty as well. The Giza Dream Sheets come in a variety of sizes and colors. Mike's latest incredible deal is the sale of the year. So for a limited time, for those of you that are listening, you'll receive 50% off of your Giza Dream Sheets. You'll receive a set for as low as $29.98. That's insane. So I'm going to be expecting a gift from Gabe. Go to mypillow.com, click on the radio podcast square, and use the promo code Carl. C-A-R-L. I spell it correctly. There, you'll find not only this amazing offer, but also you'll get deep discounts on all of MyPillow products, including the MyPillow 2.0, mattress topper, MyPillow kitchen towel sets, and now even flannel sheets, and so much more. Or call 1-800-858-0263. That is 800-858-0263. Mention my name, Carl, C-A-R-L, as your promo code, or go to mypillow.com, click on the radio podcast square at the top of the page, and enter my name, Carl. And guys, listen, we're going to want to support patriots. We want to support American businesses. If you're going to buy, and if you're going to buy products that Mike Lindell offers or MyPillow offers, then please consider mypillow.com, promo code Carl, C-A-R-L. All right, so I wanted to give you, I was going to talk about this on Tatum's show on Friday, and I simply ran out of time because there was just so much to get to. It was absolutely insane. But I just wanted to give you, in this world where, just everything is chaotic, right? Everything is just absolutely insane. Leading up to the 2020 elections, looking at how the left has destroyed the United States of America in a very short period of time under the Biden administration, also under Obama's administration. But we got a break from that. We were able to turn it around. It seemed like somewhat briefly under the Trump administration, where the economy rose, but unfortunately the cultural rot was still there. The deep state rot was still there. So now we see that continued. And so things get a little depressing sometimes. I'm just going to be real with you. Even I fight that at times. But I saw this article. This was in AMAC. And I was like, you know what? There are answers. There are solutions to these problems. And it tends to be Judeo-Christian values, biblical values, traditional values. And one of those is that when conservative parents, when conservative parenting is used, I should say, then kids grow up more mentally healthy than do liberal kids. by and large. And so I want to get into that study. I do want to bring you some news because there was some news that happened over Christmas. I know it's listen, all of us want to kind of forget about what's going on, but the world is so cray-cray. I figure if you do want to hear the news, I'm going to bring some of it to you. So hat tip to Breitbart. So we have 3 U.S. service members that were injured. Thanks for bringing this to my attention, Gabe. Three U.S. service members that were injured, including one that was critically injured in a one-way drone attack by an Iran-backed in northern Iraq on Christmas Day. This, according to a National Security Council statement. And here's the statement from the National Security Council. Early this morning, this was Christmas Day, so this would be yesterday. Early this morning in northern Iraq, U.S. military personnel were targeted by a one-way attack drone. The attack wounded 3 U.S. service members and 1 critically. So much for that Iran deal, right? So much for working with Iran, right? That just isn't going to fly. The Iranians know that they have a weakling in the White House. The Iranians know that they have a compromised president in the White House and perhaps many in his administration as well. And so they're going to take advantage of Biden's time in office. The same is true with Russia. The same is true with China. All of our adversaries are going to take advantage with Biden in the White House because why wouldn't they? According to Breitbart, this is the first time a U.S. service member has been critically injured in the wave of Iran-backed attacks against U.S. troops since they began on October 17th. To date, there have been more than 100 attacks against U.S. troops in the region. What has Biden done? Absolutely nothing, as far as I know. The Iran-backed militia Kataib Hezbollah and affiliated groups under an umbrella of Iranian-backed militants claimed credit for the attack. This, according to the National Security Council. This is just a sad state of affairs. Joe Biden was, quote, immediately briefed on the attack, according to the National Security Council, and ordered the Department of Defense to prepare response options. The options were presented to him during a call yesterday afternoon, and he directed strikes against, quote, 3 locations utilized. So he has done something finally. He directed strikes against 3 locations utilized by Hezbollah and affiliated groups focused specifically on unmanned aerial drone activities, quote unquote. But see, this is so counterproductive because if you continue to work with Iran, what does this matter? So you take out some of their drones, you take out a facility, but you continue to send them money. We are in crazy town. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, who's a disaster, by the way, said the strikes were necessary and proportionate. I don't give a flip about the strikes being proportionate. I want them disproportionate. I want them to never, ever strike American or hurt America or hurt Americans again. I want them to be extremely disproportionate. I want those little punks to say, oh, crap, we should have never messed with the United States of America. I'm so tired of this political correctness, even in the military. The military strikes are not supposed to be proportionate. They're supposed to be devastating so we don't have to keep spending money in freaking wars. Today's attack led to 3 injuries to U.S. personnel, leaving 1 service member in critical condition. My prayers are with the brave Americans who were injured, Lloyd Austin said. And then he said, let me be clear. Great. I hate when they say that. The president and I will not hesitate to take necessary action to defend the United States of America, our troops and our interests, except you did 100 times before this attack. There's no higher priority. While we do not seek to escalate conflict in the region, we are committed and fully prepared to take further necessary measures to protect our people and our facilities. CENTCOM said in a statement that early assessments indicate that the U.S. airstrikes, quote, destroyed the targeted facilities and likely killed a number of Kataib Hezbollah militants. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. It's Kataib. Quote, there are no indications, this is from CENTCOM, Central Command in Tampa, there are no indications that any civilian lives were affected. The U.S. military will continue to evaluate the effectiveness of these strikes. All right, so civilian lives may have been affected. That's war. God, man, these people just suck. We are in such danger. Go out and get yourself a AR-15 as quickly as possible. We're in danger. and then maybe a pair of, I don't know, testes to go with it, because we're going to have to be brave. I'm not sure when the crap is going to hit the fan, but it's going to hit the fan. These strikes are intended to hold accountable those elements directly responsible for attacks on coalition forces in Iraq and Syria and degrade their ability to continue attacks. We will always protect our forces. This, according to CENTCOM Commander Army General Michael Eric Corella. All right, so that's so that's that. All right, so we were attacked, and we attacked some of their installations, some of their drone installations. So that's where we are. So that's where we are. Unfreaking believable. Okay, I said I was going to bring you good news. I am, but let me just go ahead and since I try to do my Jackson's 5, albeit you guys have been very patient and forgiving because I've been inconsistent with that. I want to go back to that just so I make sure that I bring you some of the news. Ukraine destroys a Russian warship, for those of you that are concerned about that. Bidenomics home prices are at a record high thanks to Bidenomics. Not to mention we have illegal immigrants that are flooding the zone, so rent is going to be extremely high in areas in which they flood, which eventually is going to be all over the United States. It was a very terrifying Christmas, sadly. Nigerian Christians are being slaughtered. No one's talking about this, and frankly, I should be talking about it more. But a Nigerian gunman killed at least 140 in a Christian-dominated region of Nigeria. So please keep these people in your prayers. Kanye apologizes to Jews in a Hebrew language post. I'm not sure if you guys saw that. I was actually going to do a video or a podcast on it. I mean, he just went into a serious anti-Semitic, racist, bigoted rant. I had so many hopes for Kanye West. I mean, I knew he struggled with mental issues, but I had hoped he had gotten out of control. But even with mental issues, I'm not excusing them for the blatant anti-Semitism. And I'm sorry, you came out last year, you said some crazy crap. You came out this year, you did the same thing. Perhaps you just have a problem with Jews, and I pray he gets his heart right with God and gets the proper, if it is medication that he needs, he takes care of that as well. You guys may have heard this story. Obama pushed Harvard to keep President Claudine Gay. There's been more mounting pressure from people to get rid of her, and she should be gone. This lady has plagiarized so much. Nothing she's written is her own material. It appears post-high school. I mean, seriously, it's getting bad. It's worse than I thought there were. I think there were 10 or 11 papers. It was reported that she had plagiarized good portions of at least half of those papers without any accreditation to those or any credit for those that had actually come up with the research without any citations. And Harvard had just given her a pass. Well, the reason being is Barack Obama, the former president, was lobbying behind the scenes. It is rumored, I saw this on X, this was a secondhand source that had some credible sources, at least according to this person that I trust, that she has been asked to resign, and she just flatly refuses at this point and is threatening a lawsuit if she's fired. I'm like, bring it on. Honestly, if I'm Harvard, it's not worth losing my credibility for that woke racist Claudine Gay. Absolutely insane. All right. Israel's Christian population soars, fleeing persecution in the Middle East. All right, so actually that's more than Jackson's 5. So those are some headlines for you that are happening today. Also, there was one that I read earlier. This T-shirt is bugging me. I wore a T-shirt under a T-shirt. This is just me being real on the podcast. And I probably shouldn't have done that. You got to be buffer. I got to start lifting weights so my shoulders are broader. And that way I can hide T-shirts underneath better. What was I going to say? Man, I literally, more Americans are getting tired of the Biden administration seemingly living the life of retirement while he's wreaking havoc on everyone else's retirement. So that is something to consider. People are really growing weary of this guy. It appears Democrats are turning on him because I think they are afraid, based on everything that they've thrown at Trump. If you do believe the polls, that Biden is really severely hurting in the polls while Trump continues to gain ground on them, and that's just not working out. It's not working out well for the Democrats. They really want to throw this guy overboard, but it may be too little too late. So we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to see what happens in Iowa, if DeSantis stands a chance, New Hampshire, if Nikki Haley stands a chance. If Nikki Haley doesn't win New Hampshire, if DeSantis doesn't win Iowa, I don't foresee them winning. However, if one of them wins or comes very close to Trump, I think it changes the narrative, and I think it forces the pollsters to be a little more honest, if you will. So, or get a little better at their jobs relatively quickly. Okay, now let's go into the story at hand. Hat tip again. This was from AMAC, and I thought this was a very, very important survey. And I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of encouragement. We're used to hearing bad news. Hence, that's what I did at the beginning of this podcast, right, with my Jackson's 5. But I want to give you some good news. I want to give you some encouragement for those of you that have been fighting the conservative fight, or the fight to restore the Constitution of the United States, to restore our Judeo-Christian values. I just want to give you a pat on the back. I want you to understand that when we fight for our values, when we fight for what we believe, when we fight for Judeo-Christian values, biblical values, traditionalism, they have an effect. And the left would have us believe that they don't, but they do. So this was a study, all right? So children that were raised by conservative parents have stronger relationships with their parents, and they have a lower risk of developing mental health issues. I really thought this was a very important story to talk about, because parents, you need to feel encouraged that the work that you are doing with your children can and will pay off in the end. That's not to say that every kid that is raised by a conservative household is going to turn out to be perfect or even decent. Let's be honest. But the chances are they are going to grow up to be decent people, and they're going to grow up to be mentally healthier than children that are raised by liberal parents. I don't necessarily take comfort in saying that, but the facts are the facts. So according to a new report, children raised by conservative parents are significantly more likely to have a stronger relationship with their parents. They're at a much lower risk at developing mental health disorders than children that are raised by liberal parents, as I just mentioned. While the study does not make the case that the political ideology itself leads to better outcomes for children, it does find a strong correlation, not causation, but correlation between conservative political views and successful parenting strategies. Let me tell you why I believe this is the case, in my opinion. Just think of what conservatives, or traditional, conservatives, I have a hard time saying conservatives because I fail to believe that we conserve much of anything in our culture. But for the sake of the program, I may switch back and forth, conservative, constitutional restorationist, because I still battle this stuff in my mind, to be honest with you. But think of what conservative values entail, right? Conservative values, God, the importance of teaching children that there is a higher power, that there's somebody that is watching you, all right? Your behavior, that there's someone that cares for you, that you're not just a piece of primordial muck, right, that just came out of nowhere. You were designed for a purpose. Just think about how much more confidence that instills in a child, even if you don't believe in God, all right? You could be an atheist, but just think about how much more confidence that would instill in a child that believes in God. God, family. Family is a place where you can be, you can be safe. Typically, Lord willing, you would see a mom or a dad in a household, so a kid can have both that masculine and that feminine structure, however, coming together, working in unison to raise that child. And I know there's a lot of single parents out there that are trying to do that are doing their best to raise their kids. So this isn't me knocking single parenthood, but it's just a fact that a two-parent home is better than a single-parent home. And for a brief period of time, I was very brief period of time. Thank God I was a single parent. You never knock the ideal, even if you're a single parent. You do the best that you can in that situation, but you raise your kid to have Judeo-Christian values, traditional values, conservative values. And chances are they will turn out okay. But, God, family, the love of country, the love of freedom, hard work, teaching your kids about hard work, rugged individualism, as in you don't want to be a jerk. You don't want to raise your kid to be a jerk and a narcissist, cocky little narcissist. But what you do want is to teach your kid that they were created by God, right? All right, and they're free to be who God created them to be, and then you're going to help, as Proverbs 22:6 says, raise a child in the way that he should go, and in the end, he won't depart from it. That's talking about a child's bent. All right, that isn't talking about, theology, Christianity, whatever. It's talking about a child's bent, and how God created them, and then hopefully they'll grow up to be a law-abiding, productive citizen. So this is a nonpartisan report, which I think I hate when people say bipartisan, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, bipartisan, it just really sucks. It means that you basically abandon principles to get along with the left, in my opinion, at this point. But this was a nonpartisan report. It was a joint project of the Brookings Institution. Brookings Institution, for those of you that know, it is a left-wing think tank. I mean, they come with some facts, but they also, when you read deep in their studies, they believe what they believe, and they are on the left. All right, but I'll often look through the Brookings Institute for some studies just to kind of see where they're leaning on some issues, and they'll have some of the same stats that Heritage Foundation will have, but they'll have a different take on it because they're left-leaning. But anyway, when it comes to family, they're not. This reminds me of those luxury beliefs. Have you guys ever heard of luxury beliefs? I remember talking about this a long time ago with a young lady named Michaela. I forget her last name now because she's gotten married. She works for Glenn Beck now. But these luxury beliefs are basically, you get all these rich elites that want to experiment on the rest of us. And by the way, we'll be talking about that because I think the Obamas are kind of doing that. So we'll get into that in a later podcast about the Obamas Netflix flick, Leave the World Behind. Honestly, it's kind of creepy. But these luxury beliefs these elites have, right? They don't live by them. The left don't live by what they believe or what they state. Like they may say, they may spout or espouse or promote trans issues and all this. They don't live by those same values in their own home. They know the makings of success. Build wealth, build a real estate portfolio, make sure you have a traditional marriage. Doesn't mean that the marriage always works, but traditional marriage, go to school, get an education, get a job, save, invest. That's how they raise their kids. That's how they raise their kids for success. And then they go out and tell you, hey, welfare, all this stuff that they don't believe, that they don't apply to their own lives, they tell you to live that way. And it's really a discriminatory practice. So anyway, this report, again, by the Brookings Institution, Gallup, and the Institute for Family Studies, a gentleman by the name of Jonathan Rothwell was the study's principal author, and he notes prior research on the factors that influence adolescent mental health outcomes has almost completely been ignored. Parenting styles and the parent-child relationship by places like the CDC. They've been completely ignored. So, if you bring a child up, conservative parenting style, and we'll get into the different types that there are, your child is likely to come out or likely to grow up to be a productive citizen, a mentally healthy adult. All right? But they're not talking about this. The CDC won't talk about this. So again, no lives behind closed doors. They don't live this stuff. They don't live this stuff, man. I got notes here that I'm seeing. Luxury beliefs. The left elites don't live by the values they espouse for their voters. Abortion, welfare, anti-2A. Yeah, they don't believe by, they don't live these beliefs behind closed doors. I used to say all the time, there's no such thing as a liberal behind closed doors. All this stuff they tell you to go out and have sex willy-nilly, go out and do this, go out and do that, live your life, YOLO, you only live. They don't live like that because they know that it's not successful. They only want you to live like that because they know that they eventually could probably get you caught up in one of their little groups, right? Their little victim groups, and eventually get your vote. That's all this is about. It's a little sick experiment, and it actually works for them, and it has been working for them. So here's a quote from the study's principal author. Again, the gentleman's name is Jonathan Rothwell, and this research was, or at least this column, was on AMAC. So here's what the study's principal author had to say, quote, very conservative parents on average enjoy the strongest relationships with their adolescent children, and liberals experience the worst, he says. Conservative parents are 8 percentage points more likely to be in good relationship with their adolescent child than liberal parents are, and the gap is 14 percentage points between very conservative and liberal parents. So the left tries to indoctrinate your children. Think about that. The left tries to indoctrinate your children to take them away from you. Isn't that insane? Meanwhile, their own children don't obey them. They don't have great relationships with their children. And again, I'm speaking in general. This isn't obviously based upon these numbers. That isn't always the case. I suspect, actually, I know a family that lives not too far near me where there's a grandmother, there's 2 daughters and their husbands, and they're raising their families. They all live on the same street. It's a phenomenal thing to see. And they're all liberals. But they know what makes success, and that is family, that is education. Unfortunately, I don't believe they are, they don't have a biblical belief system, but at least they do the things that are actually outlined in the Bible, and having that family structure has proven to be successful for them. And quite frankly, that's what you'll see when you go to suburbs and stuff. You won't see a lot of broken down families. And frankly, you didn't even see that back in the day in the hood. I mean, you didn't see tons of them. I mean, there was a day when I recall living in the hood when you would hear somebody's parents were divorced. Not that it was so rare, but it was rare enough where you were like, oh, dang, man, feel bad for you. You know what I'm saying? Because most of the people that you knew and their parents were together. You know, and that's something that's not talked about. The author of the study goes on to say adolescents with very conservative parents are 16 to 17 percentage points more likely to be in good or excellent mental health compared to their peers with very liberal parents. All right. So you can see this trans craze. A lot of parents will just, accept it, buy into it, all this kind of stuff. Drugs, anti-COVID lockdowns, or COVID lockdowns. So that some liberal parents, you would just like went all in on, no questions asked and all that kind of stuff. You could see how their kids might turn out to be a little cray-cray. The author goes on to say of the study, or the principal author, only 55% of adolescents of liberal parents reported good or excellent mental health. Listen, only 55% compared to 77% of those with conservative or very conservative parents. And I would say this, I bet you this, the adolescents that haven't said or experienced, in their opinion, stronger mental health faculty, if you will, are probably children that have already started to be brainwashed by leftists. There's no doubt in my mind. So here's the test methodology for those of you that might be curious. So the test methodology takes into account both the parent's opinion of their relationship with their child and the child's opinion of their relationship with their parent. So the author of the study, or the principal author, said, and I quote, "This relationship between conservatism and parenting remains significant even after controlling for an extensive list of parental, demographic, and socioeconomic measures." Meaning, parents that used a conservative parenting style, which I'll break down in just a sec. All right, conservative parenting style, regardless of whether or not they lived in the hood or the burbs, regardless of whether or not they made minimum wage or you know what I'm saying, and made good dough, if you will, their kids were mentally healthier when using conservative parenting, a conservative parenting style. So conservative parents typically employ more effective parenting styles than liberals do. And here's what Rothwell explains. Again, this is the author of the study, or the principal author, and that includes being able to effectively discipline their children while also displaying affection and responding to their needs. So it's basically intentional parenting. All right. So you apply discipline while also displaying affection. Son or daughter, you're in trouble. Here's why. I care about you. I don't want you to make this type of mistake. This is what I believe you need going forward, or I know what you need. You're responding to their needs. You're helping to help them formulate their own thoughts, all this kind of stuff, but you're using discipline to do it. You're also being affectionate. I remember a story. This was years ago. I had to spank my daughter, and my wife and I talked about it, and I used to have I used to have a temper, all right? So before God saved me, I had a really, really bad temper. I mean, it's weird. I'm so removed from that. It's so weird when I talk about this stuff because I'm so removed from it. Thank God. I can't even fathom it, but I remember my life, obviously, right? So I used to have a very bad temper. And one time I remember shaking the crap out of my daughter. God forgive me. But I also remember when I was younger, I used to be hot-headed. I was smart enough. I could stay cool. But once I got hot, I got really hot. And my temper just really, really flared. And I can't even explain it. I'm thankful that I'm not that way anymore. I can, even in a crazy situation, I can think, I can ration, I can slow down. I wasn't always that way. But I remember one time I had to spank my daughter. And I had been listening to programs like Focus on the Family. I think it was Family Life was another one. And I would listen to guests that would come on the program all the time. One guest suggested if you have to spank, you spank as a last resort. And that wasn't something, frankly, that's not something that was customary even in my community or culture. A kid get out of line, you go ahead and tap that booty, you know what I'm saying? But I learned to control my temper and my anger. And I remember having to spank my daughter based upon something that she had done at school. And I won't go into the details of that, but I did it from a place of, hey, you understand why I have to do this. I asked you not to do this. You've done this. This happened at school. Here are the consequences at home, and you can never do that again. And I told you if you did that again, I was going to spank you. And just having to go through the rigmarole of explaining, have you ever heard that word, Gabe, rigmarole? Anyway, just having to go through the rigmarole of explaining that, already it was harder for me to spank her than to just fly off the handle. And for the first time, when I used to hear that, trust me, parents would say, you would even see this on TV, hear it on TV all the time. This is going to hurt me more than it would hurt you. I used to always think, yeah, right. In that case, it did. It was crazy. All right, so stronger marriages tend to lead to better relationships with teenage children. That should be obvious. A teenage child, if they have a mother or dad in the home, even if they go cray-cray, having that balance of the mother, the father, that dynamic is always a benefit for the child. And again, this isn't knocking single parents, but single parents, you should not be knocking traditional marriage or traditional relationships, because ultimately they are better for kids. It's just a fact, Jack. I'm not trying to be mean. It's just a fact. So just because you messed up in life and I've messed up in life, you don't knock the best idea. All right. You simply don't do that. All right. So conservatives tend to value their own marriages more. Again, doesn't mean they're perfect. Doesn't mean there's not divorce on occasion, but conservatives tend to value marriage more. And this benefits a child's mental health and their stability. So marriage matters. The study found that conservative parents are more likely to value their marriage and that this leads to a better relationship with their children in particular when they become teenagers. Unsurprisingly, the author says children whose parents have a strong marriage are far less likely to experience mental health issues. Now, here are the parenting styles that I'll break down right away before we close this out. And again, you're listening to the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Guys, if you would follow me on all things social media, I am on Instagram. I am on X, formerly known as Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I'm on True Social. I'm on Getter at The Carl Jackson Show. I would certainly appreciate that. But here are the parenting styles: authoritative, authoritarian, and permissive. So conservatives tend to use the authoritative style. And Rothwell argues, this is the principal author of the study, argues that this is the best, overall Rothwell argues, the best mental health results for kids come from the authoritative style. That's the style that that most conservative parents used. And here's how it's defined, even though I've kind of explained it. According to the study, it's responsive, it's rule-bound, and it's disciplined parenting. So it's basically intentional parenting. There are rules. You know, you're warm, you're affectionate, but you don't let your kids get away with murder. You don't let your kids fly off the handle. You know what I'm saying? You make sure that your kid experiences consequences. You give them enough room to grow, but also enough, metaphorically speaking, enough room to hang themselves. And then when they do, you're there to correct them. You're there to show them, perhaps what they did wrong. If you let the kid do whatever he or she wants, you're going to grow up with crazy kids. All right. And they're actually going to feel unloved because you didn't step in. You'll hear kids say this all the time. But the authoritative style, which tends to be the conservative style of parenting, again, it's warm, it's responsive, it's rule-bound, and it's disciplined parenting or intentional parenting. All right, conservative parents are far more likely to adopt this style as opposed to the two negative styles. And these are the two negative styles. They're authoritarian, which is characterized by being cold or harsh. Let me give you an example. I know people are going to get mad at me, but I don't care. You ever seen baby mama drama up in the store? You know, a kid does something in the store. It's probably a single mother or whatever, and then she just goes buck wild on the kid. I mean, I used to be there. She just goes buck wild on the kid. You know what I'm saying? It's just, you better, there's never any answers. There's never any why. This is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm doing this. It's just like, no, you did something I don't like. I'm going to beat you behind. You know what I'm saying? Or you did something I don't like. I'm going to yell at you. I'm going to curse at you. I'm going to do this. I've seen parents do that as well. But that is the authoritarian style. It's my way, or it is the highway. And there may be times, in parenting where that is called for, but that should not be the norm. And also there's the permissive, which lacks proper discipline, So you've seen the permissive parent, man. You can see some of these parents. Sometimes if you go to a restaurant, you see these kids just running around. Their kids aren't well behaved and all this kind of stuff. They just let their kids do whatever, say whatever. I'm like, oh man, they're going to have problems with this kid when they're older because they're not setting any boundaries. They're not setting up structure. These kids go into a civil society or whatever. They should learn to behave a certain way. Yeah, there should be societal behavior when kids go out in public. I'm sorry, where they should learn how to behave in front of other people. That's very important. You don't let your kids just get away with murder. It isn't about other people judging you. It's about creating a civilized society. And that's very important, all right? Very important. All right. Good conservative parenting is the antidote to the rise in mental health issues. Let me just share these facts with you. So the national state of emergency for child and adolescents in 2021, the Children's Hospital Association, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry declared a national state of emergency in child and adolescent mental health. According to the, Children's Hospital Association, 42% of all high school students experience persistent feelings of sadness and hopelessness. That figure includes a shocking 60% of teenage girls. Man, can you imagine how much girls are tormented online? Overall, from 2007 to 2021, youth suicide skyrocketed. Oh my God, 62%. From 2000, what happened in those years? It's social media. Man, other factors include COVID lockdowns, isolation, more time alone. We saw that during COVID lockdowns, how mental health issues, suicide rates, depression, anxiety among kids absolutely skyrocketed. Why? There was no social release. Some kids couldn't even go to church. Some kids couldn't go to school. They didn't have that outlet. They're just sitting home, sitting on their phones. You wonder why the trans craze skyrocketed and blew up. Kids want to feel a part of something, so they were finding something to be a part of online. When kids were shut off from school, society, and friends due to the COVID-19 lockdowns, despite there being little to no evidence that the virus really hurt them at all, between 2020 to 2023, according to the column, 18 times more teenagers died deaths of despair than did from the virus itself. Listen to that. 18 times more teenagers died from deaths of despair, more than likely, obviously, suicide, as opposed to COVID. But they were locked down because of that. Mental health problems in kids is a predictor of the mental health problems that they'll experience into adulthood. The study's author says mental health problems in early adolescence predict mental health problems in adulthood with wide-ranging implications for individuals, families, communities, and society, close quote. And then he goes on, one's capacity for developing and maintaining relationships and participating productively and competently in social affairs, close quote. So government health bureaucracies like the CDC, I mentioned this in passing, almost completely ignore the impact that both the COVID lockdowns had on children's depression, anxiety, mental health, if you will, and the impact that good conservative parent-child relationships have on a child's mental health development. Why would the government, why would a government bureaucracy ignore this? To justify their place, to justify their paychecks. It's as simple as that. I'm telling you, so many of these, it's what COVID opened my eyes to. So many of these bureaucracies are so not needed. It's insane. A lot of this stuff is duplication. A lot of these people simply don't care, and they're not the experts they pretend to be. So the CDC, as a matter of fact, when it comes to children's mental health, here's what they prioritize. The agency emphasizes, quote, diagnosis, access to mental health services. All right, so diagnosis is a good thing. You want to get diagnosed. Access to mental health services. Okay, I don't think it's the government's job to do that, but nonetheless, okay, that sounds like a plan. And the avoidance of racial ethnic discrimination as among the most important issues in youth mental health. In other words, DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, CRT. That's going to cause more mental health issues amongst kids. Bet. We're going to see this DEI, the CRT crap is going to cause so much mental anguish. And it's going to flip on white liberals like nobody's business. I'll get into that this week in another study that I found. So mainstream media hasn't covered this. This report and the idea that conservative parenting is the antidote to mental health issues for children. For adolescents, they have not covered it. They have not covered the impact that the lockdowns have, nor will they, because they have to justify their paychecks, and they would have to admit that they were wrong. All right, guys, this podcast actually went a little longer than I intended. We'll go ahead and wrap this up now, but I did want to give you some encouragement. Conservative parents, you're using a biblical worldview. You're listening, or you're using a Judeo-Christian, traditional parenting style, conservative parenting style. It's warm, affectionate, it's rule-bound, it's disciplined parenting. It's intentional parenting. You're all about God, family, the love of country, freedom, hard work, individualism, making sure that child becomes the child that God wants them to be. Guess what? Your child is going to turn out all right the vast majority of times, and that is the good news. Guys, until next time, do not grow weary doing good, and God bless you.